Good evening and welcome back to Capitol Time, a statewide look at politics. I'm Tim Boyum. It's Thursday, and even though session is out, we continue our conversations with lawmakers from all across the state. Tonight, we're joined by two state reps, Craig Horn, a Republican from Union County, and Duane Hall, a Democrat from Wake County. Gentlemen, good to see you as always. I hope you're enjoying your off session, so to speak. Representative Hall, let's start with you. Obviously, this week you announced that you were not going to run for U.S. Senate. And then yesterday, Deborah Ross announced that she was running for U.S. Senate. Did those two things have to do with each other?
She's a friend. We talk a lot, but no, it was not coordinated. I had an idea she may be announcing soon, but I'd made the decision about a week ago not to do this.
Why?
I gave it a serious consideration because I think, especially in a presidential year, that is a winnable seat. So much talk has been out there about how Burr won re-election, the first person to do it in that seat. But if you think about it, that was a strong Republican year in 2010. 2 years before that, a strong Democratic year. Hagan got elected. I think the best example to illustrate it is the first campaign I worked on was the Hunt Helms race, where it was a strong Republican year with Reagan at the top, and they elected Helms. Just 2 years later, they picked Terry Sanford, which, you know, you think, what sense does that make? And it's just what we always know, it's a purple state. Who turns out the vote, it makes all the difference in these elections.
Well, it should be a fascinating race now we have some Democrats in it as well. Representative Horn, everybody's making announcements this week, so I guess I should ask you, are you running for re-election in 2016?
I am going to run for re-election to my present seat in 2016.
So what do you make of all these departures? We have at least 4 or 5 House seats. Now today, a newspaper in Hendersonville is saying that Tom Apodaca and Chuck McGrady aren't sure if they're running. There's been young folks that are leaving. What do you make of all these exits, potentially some big names as well?
Well, first of all, it really doesn't come as a big surprise. The Republican surge in 2010, taking office in 2011, has found out that this is a heck of a lot of work for very little pay. We brought in a number of new young legislators with families those legislators have now been there a little while. They've gone home to their families who are saying, well, hey, wait a minute. This is taking a whole lot more of your time than we'd anticipated. You're not making any money. Marriage is a shared deal, or maybe our employer or our own companies have found that they need us there a little more than we had originally anticipated. So it's a little time for reevaluation. Maybe it's time to stay home.
Are you surprised by this at all? I mean, most of them are Republicans. I mean, you know, you saw Representative Glazier leave, but that was for another job as well. I mean, are you surprised by this?
I'm not. People try to say it's for particular reasons, but it's all different reasons. My first session, I actually sat between Stam and Tyne and disagreed with him a lot, but we became friends. Stam, I think, wants to continue legal work either as a judge or in his practice. I think I was on this program the night that Tyne left the Democratic Party when he was frustrated. I think he found those same frustrations on the other side. He was faced with running as an unaffiliated, which is tough. The reality is a lot of them aren't really going to change the makeup of the legislature. I mean, Brown and Schaefer, those are safe seats. Leo's a safe seat. Why he's leaving, I think he's been there since the 1930s, so it was time for him to leave. Craig stole part of my thunder. I was going to suggest I heard a rumor about him leaving, but with his announcement,
I know we've made news today, right?
Yes.
Representative Horn, what about that is he has not been there since the 30s. There's obviously a joke, a good one though. But I mean, these are some institutional figures down there in Daughtry and Stam, potentially Apodaca, high-powered and McGrady, a budget writer. I mean, those are not just regular legislators that would be leaving.
Well, that's true. These are what we would call big hitters. They stand tall in the legislature. They stand tall in our caucuses. These are folks to whom us younger guys, and I'm going to put myself in that category, we look to for advice and for direction. It's critical that we maintain some corporate history, some corporate memory. So I am concerned about it, but I certainly understand it.
Dr. June Atkinson announced today that she is going to run for Superintendent of Public Instruction again. She had not raised any money this year, so people thought she wasn't going to. That's been a bit of a contention of the legislature as well. Some would argue that the legislature is taking away some power from DPI and cutting jobs over the years. Are you surprised she's running again?
A little bit. She didn't seem to be doing the normal things you would think a candidate would do over the last 4 years. In her defense, I've seen her around lots of substantive policy type places. So you could argue that she has been working on the business of the job. Dropout rates are way down, and that's something that she works really, really hard at. If she had chosen not to, we have a couple of really strong backup candidates. I know Tricia Cotham would have been a great candidate as well.
Representative Horner, what about that relationship between the Department of Public Instruction and the legislature?
Well, there's no question that there's some contentious feeling oft times that happens between the legislature and various departments, DPI being one of them. I look forward to buttressing that relationship, opening the communications a little bit more. We have had a little bit of a difference of opinion on how things should work. And of course, the Republican legislature has been very focused on reducing overhead, reducing costs, and ensuring that we can turn to the taxpayer and say, here's what you're getting for what you're paying. But I think that the future bodes well. We made some significant progress this year. I think we'll continue to make significant progress in education.
We should say that Atkinson is a Democrat. At this point, we don't know of any well-known candidates that are running against her from either side. There was a bill filed to change that to a cabinet position, not an elected position. Representative Horn, I mean, does it make sense because of what we're seeing? I mean, some people may be arguing that you guys are doing to DPI what Democrats did to the lieutenant governor's position back in the 80s.
Well, frankly, I like the concept of a Secretary of Education, someone that's looking at the entire continuum of education from pre-K all the way through post-grad, so that we ensure that these various levels or silos talk to each other in a more efficient manner. As you know, we implemented an articulation agreement that encouraged, in fact, forced the community colleges and the university systems to work more closely together. I think that by possibly a Secretary of Education that looks at the entire continuum could help significantly reduce remediation rates so that we ensure that our high schools are actually teaching what our community colleges and universities need them to know, need our students to know. So there's some significant benefit to that. I believe that quite a number of states have either a Secretary of Education or someone appointed in that type of position.
Yeah, Virginia does, in fact, I think. What do you think about that idea?
I actually like the idea of electing. It's education, how we educate children is often ideologically driven. I'd like the voters to know how the person in that position thinks.
Yeah, and getting that constitutional amendment passed would be a whole another deal. All right, guys, session's out, but we're staying busy, that's for sure. Good to see you both. Thank you for stopping by.
Thanks very much. You guys take care.
Thank you.
That's all the time we have for tonight. We'll see you back here tomorrow night for another edition of Capitol Tonight. Have a great evening.